Hey, what's up out there? So I'm gonna make a video that I think that people may be interested in. We got a good community on here who likes Backstreet Boys. I've been a Backstreet Boys fan since 1999, so I've been following them ever since, and definitely looking forward to their new album that's coming out early next year, or rather, not very long actually, a couple months or so. Anyway, so basically, I'm gonna go through my wish list for their upcoming album. So I'm just gonna start off with some pretty standardized things, and then I'm gonna get into more specifics. I'm not sure if we got a taste of any upcoming singles or not. Let me know if you've ever heard any of that information in some video that you may have seen. What tends to happen is they'll end up releasing singles even after the album's released. This is something that has happened in like almost every album. They'll have like a couple of singles that come out before the album, and then they'll have maybe one or two if they decide to release any more after the release of the actual album. So we might be getting one or two more singles. It's very possible that it comes out before, but I'm shooting for maybe after the release of the actual album, as we've seen on some of their other albums that has come out in the past. But anyways, I'm gonna start you off with my first thing on my wish list, and this is not in any particular order, and I'm also just shooting the breeze, very little editing, if not none at all. So the first thing I'm gonna say is I think the first thing I'm gonna say is bass vocals. So as we know as Backstreet Boys fans, Kevin sang bass, and but the bass wasn't a full time thing. Kevin always sang the lowest notes in the group, but as far as singing actual like bass parts, um, that wasn't a full time thing. Um, he always sang the lowest notes, but what ends up happening is he may just sing like just under the melody, for example, and that will be the lowest note. Um, So I would much rather that there'd be a lot more. Like it doesn't have to be all the time, not like in sync where there's a bass vocal every time. If they decide not to, that's okay. But um, I just really like bass vocals. It just makes everything sound big and full, and making the most out of the sounds. So I would really like more bass vocals, and I would much rather it not be just a standard low melody, but something a little more artistic. Something that I found in my journey of trying to pick out harmonies and everything like that, I found that bass vocals are, or they tend to be the most artistic because they bounce around in different directions, trying to fill in the spots, if you get what I mean. Trying to make some cool sounds in four part or perfect four parts, or hopefully a perfect five part. Um, so yeah, I'm hoping to get some artistic bass vocals in this next one. The last album, they didn't have any bass vocals at all. They had low melodies here and there, but yeah, I would very much like to have a bass vocal. It's been a while since we've gotten anything like that that had any of that cool bass vocals. So the next thing I want to see is 5 part harmonies. So a lot of the times in Backstreet Boys songs, we get like a 4 part harmony with a shared melody. Often when they go into the studio and record, I believe like they could easily have like 3 people singing the melody just to make it pop. But when they perform it live, it's kind of arranged in a way where 2 people will sing the melody. We've seen a trend where Nick and AJ share the melody quite a bit, making it a 4 part instead of a 5 part. So maybe like 2 higher harmonies and 1 lower harmony, something like that. So we got a lot of those in Backstreet Boys history, but I would much prefer it if we got a 5 part harmony. So instead of 2 people sharing something, we could have everybody doing something different. And I do mean even if they're sharing parts that but sharing harmonies, but in different octaves. If you're familiar with my brother and I's channel, you'll be familiar with the words, or the lingo, high lows and stuff like that. So basically like a high harmony except saying exactly the same but lower. um a good example of that is like the song More Than That. you might be able to find the video where they sang that on Rosie O'Donnell singing a cappella, which was in 2001, so you might be able to find that. But in that song, we got everybody doing something different. We got Nick singing lead or melody, and then we got a harmony under that, and then another harmony under that, and then we got a low melody, and we got, of course, Howie singing a high harmony. So giving everybody something different to do instead of two melodies, just making the most out of the sound. So I would like to see 5-part harmonies. And the next thing we're going to say is 5-part harmonies again, but this is a little more complicated. The next thing I want to say, the next thing I want to see is a perfect 5-part harmony. So what I mean by that is 5-part harmonies that are completely different. In the past, we've seen Backstreet Boys doing perfect 5-part harmonies, which is really, really cool. It's nice to have that. It's nice to have that as a vocal group, and that is somewhere in history. And actually, one of their singles has a perfect 5-part. I'm not sure if they cut it down. I'm trying to remember if they cut it down for the single version, but maybe not. Maybe not. For example, All I Have to Give, the everything I have is for you. That section there is a perfect 5-part, which is really, really cool. There are other places where we heard perfect 5 parts, like Just to Be Close to You. There's a perfect 5-part at the end of the song. The I just wanna be close. That's another example. There are other examples in other songs. My brother pointed out to me that the song I Wanna Be With You, which wasn't actually released everywhere. It's actually a bonus song on an album. It's not even a single. So very few people actually heard that unless you actually went to go look for it. So that's a little bit of a shame, because that song has actually, my brother pointed out to me, has a perfect 5-part in the actual chorus, which is, in my opinion, hard to ask for. I would prefer it if there was a perfect 5-part in the chorus, but it's kind of hard because it's hard to fit all the different sounds, and it might cause a kind of sound that you might not be looking for, kind of like conflicting sounds a little bit, kind of dissonant. It's hard to fit a perfect 5-part with it sounding very clean. It's very complicated to do, because it kind of depends on everything else, the music, how the melody sounds, and everything like that. So, personally, if I was in a vocal group, I would try my best to have a perfect 5-part as much as I can. I've written my own personal songs and tried to throw in a perfect 5-part in the chorus, and I feel as though I was successful at it, making it fit. But I feel like my brother and I would be a little bit stricter. I think our standards are a little higher than Backstreet Boys. For example, AJ was pointing out how his favorite part of not their newest single, but their last one, Don't Go Breaking My Heart, the I've been broken, I've been bruised, that part there, he's saying the harmonies were intricate, and they are. There's a perfect 4-part in that area, but my brother pointed out how he feels as though there could have been a perfect 5-part there that would have fit. So this is what I mean that we have higher standards. Like we try to make the puzzle a little more complicated, and that's really what it is for us. It's kind of like a puzzle, and that's why we like it so much. So I would like to see perfect 5 parts, and Nick, I'm paraphrasing him, he said we're bringing back the harmonies. So, I mean, hopefully that's true. Something that I was kind of interested in was, he said that in that Q&A that came out not too long ago, he said that Never Gone was one of their most harmonic album. Like he said, there was lots of harmonies in there, which I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure he said that was like the one with the most harmonies in it, but I actually disagree. I think the first one was probably, the first album, 1996. I think that might have been the one with the most harmonies in it. I think they tried a little harder on that one. But in the Never Gone album, I can only think of so many songs that I feel actually had like decent harmonies in it. Like even just looking at the singles, Incomplete, the harmonies in that song are they're not impressive at all. It's a good song, don't get me wrong, I love that song, but the harmonies aren't all that great. It's like a 2-part basically. Just want you to know. It's like, pretty sure that song was just pretty standard sounding. Crawling back to you as well. I think that song was like a three part. I still was like, again, it's not that impressive. Poster Girl was pretty decent in my opinion. I think that's a 5 part harmony if I remember correctly. I think that's a 5 part harmony. There's no perfect fours or perfect fives in the song if I can remember correctly, but maybe there is. I'm kind of forgetting now. Yeah, just going through the list. Um, I My Beautiful Woman. Yeah, I think that's not a perfect 5 part. I think that's a 5 part again. Safest Place to Hide is pretty cool. Never Gone wasn't that cool either. Moving On was cool, but that wasn't. That was only that was only on specific albums that was released because it was a bonus track. They should have kept that for. They should have just kept that for the international releases. The song for the Unloved, it sounds pretty full. I haven't explored that too much, but that sounded pretty full. So, um, we got a small number of songs that had a lot of harmonies in it. Nick is probably thinking of a very specific songs. Probably "Safest Place to Hide," for example. That was a song that they would that's a song that they would perform as a demonstration. And if I remember correctly, there's a perfect 4 part in that. But there's a 5 part. There's a 5 part, but there's 5 parts, but there's a perfect 4 part in there. So that's pretty cool. Actually, coming to think of it, I think just want you to know how to perfect 4 part in there. But anyway, but do I think it's the most harmony filled album? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it's the first one. Um, is there a perfect 5 part in uh Never Gone? At the top of my head, I can't think of any at all except for Moving On. Moving On has a perfect 5 part. I know that for sure. So I'm hoping for the next album that I hope the next album they have a perfect 5 part somewhere. If they could fit in the chorus, that might be wishing for a lot, but that would be really cool if they did. I'd be really impressed, and I'd be quite happy about that. I think it also depends on the producers too. Um, which is kind of interesting because the last album had more creative control, but the harmonies weren't all that great in the last album, which is kind of interesting to me. There was way too many songs that were just like 3 parts and stuff like that. It's like, why? Um, I think that like I said, I think my brother and I, we have pretty strict standards. I apologize for mumbling my words. Um, but I feel like they here's the thing. They can impress a lot of people. Let's say they sing a 3 part harmony. I think there's a large group of people, maybe not necessarily the people who follow my channel, but there's a group of people who won't know the difference, right? They'll be like a 3 part harmony and they'll be like, wow, listen to that 5 part blend. Even though, like for example, let's take One Direction, for example. There's probably people who think, wow, listen to that 5 part blend. One Direction don't really do 5 parts, right? Let's say they do. They've done this before, where they perform a cappella, as most vocal groups do. They'll do a small demonstration a cappella real quick, and then they'll do a 3 part harmony in a 5 member group, and then they'll be like, wow, listen to that 5 part blend. But then in reality, it isn't a 5 part blend, but they don't know the difference, but they're impressed because they can hear harmonies, you know what I mean? So, as for Backstreet Boys, they're going to impress a lot of people, even if the harmony arrangements aren't all that cool, or less cool than I would hope, because I know the potential that they have. So, we'll see about that. I'm just gonna put my hope in Nick's word. We got 2 singles so far. So we'll see what the album sounds like. Who knows if their upcoming singles will fit my hope, but we'll see. So the next thing I'm gonna say on my list is songs that sound very much like a Backstreet Boys song. I don't want to have an overly modern sound. I'm not really a fan of the modern sound too much. Um, in all areas, subject matter, the lyrics, the music videos, the way they sound. I just find that the choruses aren't really catchy. Uh, just as a challenge, most of you can probably name me at least 5 songs within the last 5 years where the chorus is like it's just one word repeating over and over. Um, I don't think Backstreet Boys is gonna have something like that, but I just want something that's recognizably them. I also want songs that sound very inspired too. I mean, today's music. I mean, forgive me if you like modern day music, but I don't really like it. It's kind of funny. I was listening to a Mariah Carey song one time on YouTube, and autoplay was on, and it directed me to a modern day Miley Cyrus song. It was a '90s Mariah Carey song, and like it was this beautiful, like inspired, graceful song, and then it directed me to like this modern day song that wasn't. I mean, I don't want to get too critical, but I wasn't I wasn't really for the sound, for the imagery, and all that stuff. And it just really made me think like, wow, what a difference. Just a couple decades ago, the music was just so different. Next on my list, something that I think we will see, maybe a little less from their last album, is songs that they've written themselves. I think it would be cool at this stage of their career that they explore more of their own writing and arranging and everything and producing. So I would like to hear something that they've conceived of their own, but now that they're on a different label, not their own label anymore, they're probably gonna have less control over that. I think producers and stuff would probably have their own idea of what they want the album to look like, and they'll work together, of course, to make that happen. But I think we'll probably see less written material had it been just on their own. Like the last one, I remember that they had a decent amount that they wrote themselves. So I would like to see a lot more written stuff, but we'll see what happens. Next thing I'm gonna say is more solos. So in the past, recognizably, we can say that Brian sang the most. His voice is a little bit in rough shape right now, and hopefully he's getting better every day. But now that they're probably gonna have him doing less now, I think we should have more of Kevin and Howie, who usually get the short end of the stick. Um, I would like to hear more of them. I think it would be really interesting if they had a song that was literally mostly either Kevin or Howie. We got songs that most people would say, "Oh, this is an AJ song" or "This is a Nick song." But I think it would be really cool if we had songs that featured Howie and Kevin, either a lot or even mostly. Just have some time to shine. I know as a group member, I mean, for me, I could think about if I was in a group, I'd probably feel a little left out, not having that that song, like that decent time to be heard or whatever. And we know that Howie kind of felt like that as far as the documentary goes. So hopefully he'll get his shot on this album. He did get he has some songs to his name, like "What Makes You Different" and um "How Did I Fall in Love with You." Those are some good songs that I think really put Howie on a pedestal for a bit there. Um, I guess I'll just move on now. So this one's very personal to me. What I hope to see in a Backstreet Boys album is an acapella song, and I don't mean like an interlude or like a medley. I want a full on acapella song, something that would look like sort of like "It's Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday" or "I Thought She Knew," something along the lines of that. And hopefully there will be a perfect vibe part in there too. I think that would be really cool. An acapella part. If we had a acapella song with 5 parts, maybe even everybody getting a solo, um, with perfect 5 part harmonies here and there. That might be a lot to ask for, but I'm gonna be positive because from that one video, if you guys correct me, there was that one video where they were singing "Just to Be Close to You" on the cruise, and then Kevin was like, he was playfully like, "Oh, what if we had an acapella on our next album?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, you should so do that, man." So hopefully we'll see an acapella song, but who knows? Um, this one's really a stretch. If they put out an acapella single, if they put out an acapella single, that'd be pretty wild. Um, Even all the great vocal groups in the past, like none of them have, unless you're like Take Six or PTX, you won't have a single that's an acapella. That just doesn't happen really. But I think that'd be really cool if Backstreet Boys had an acapella single. But I feel like that's kind of a stretch. Um, but hopefully there's at least an acapella song on the album. If I was in a vocal group personally, I would have a vocal. I would have an acapella once an album. Like maybe that's how I would close off every album, because I feel like that's the best way to prove yourself as a vocal group, to have an acapella song. So you know, rock bands have their guitar solos and drum solos and whatnot, but vocal groups, I feel like an acapella would be sort of in the ballpark of that, except for vocal groups. So hopefully we'll see that on the album. This one's a little more particular to me. Um, I kind of want Howie to have some belting parts. The reason why I say that is because we've had belting parts by mostly Brian, but we've had belting parts by everybody. I can think of songs where AJ belts, Nick, Brian, even Howie, and Kevin as well. Kevin for My Still. That's like the only belting part that I can think of his. Howie and How Did I Fall in Love with You. And of course, there's a bunch of other songs that I could think of where everybody else gets one. Brian, of course, belts all the time, but the reason why I'm rooting for Howie to have a belting part is because he's a strong tenor in my opinion, and I think he can hold a strong high note. Um, if you listen to How Did I Fall in Love with You, let's say you listen to like the live performances that can be found on YouTube, it doesn't sound like he really struggled with the belt at all. So I think it would give him sort of a shot to shine a little bit if he had a climactic part like that, and I feel like he would be able to do it with decent effort. Because in my opinion, he's a strong tenor. Even his talking voice is pretty high. So, I think, I think giving him a belting part would do him some justice, and I think it would be pretty cool to hear. Next, I'm gonna say something that we've already got, and hopefully we'll see more of this. Is being able to work with Brian's voice. So what I mean by that is, I think we've clearly, and I've already talked about this in other videos for those who have been following me. Um, I think it's pretty clear that Brian, as far as like mid-range stuff, Brian really struggles. But there are certain pitches that Brian can handle. For example, he can sing pretty high. That's why he can still belt. He's got a good belt and he still maintains control. And these higher end stuff, if we take a look at the song Chances, if we listen to a live performance of the song, he doesn't really struggle. And the reason being is because of the height of the song. The pitch of the song causes him to sing at a decent with decent control. Um, so the other thing that he can sing still is lower stuff. So something that would maybe be considered lower to like mid range. So I've been able to find some videos of him performing stuff live where he's singing pretty low and he can still sing pretty decent. It's really that mid range stuff that has complications for him. So I don't think they should push Brian too much. I think there were some songs on In a World Like This where it sounds pretty auto tuned, and I don't want them to push him and having solo parts that sound very chopped and very sounds like there's a lot of pitch correction going on. I think they should sort of work around him instead of pushing him. Because I know we know that there's still things that he can sing pretty decent, but the reason why he struggles so much and we see him struggle a lot is because of all the songs in the past. Those songs don't work in his favor because they're all in that mid-range area, and a good example of this is when he performs In a World Like This. Um, his solo in the beginning, you can hear he kind of struggles with his solo in the beginning. But then when it comes to the end of the song where he's doing all his belting parts and stuff, he does it just fine. So that's where he can prove himself in that song. So if we take a look at a song like "Trust Me," they performed it on I guess is it the Craig Ferguson show? I forget now. He performed that song, or they performed that song, and Brian, when he performed his solo, it didn't go very well, and it was kind of awkward to listen to, and I feel very terrible for him. And I wonder what people were speculating about him. Maybe they thought he was sick or something. Um, but yeah, that mid range stuff is something that he struggles with, and I hope that they've learned to kind of like work around him instead of just like pushing him to try to get all of these good takes and everything, which in result will have him either lip syncing stuff or have him struggle. And something that kind of made my heart sink is people have discussed this with me. He's already been doing some lip syncing on certain songs. If you listen to some live performances, you can hear certain solos from certain songs, mainly some of their hits, where he's clearly lip syncing, and you can easily match the different solos, and they sound identical, and it doesn't sound as you could kind of make that clear distinction that it's not live. I mean, it's still easy to fool people, but um, I've been able to recognize that he has been lip syncing, and I know he sincerely does not want to do that. But that's that. I guess that's what they've decided to do. So that's really sad. But hopefully they won't have him do any of that for any of their new material. Um, if they work around him, if they can work with what he can do. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if that's reading when I say work around him. So, yeah. Okay, I think this might be the last one because I can't really think of anything else. Um, Personally, I would like songs that have a bunch of variants of subgenres. Backstreet Boys have really shown a lot of that. They've been versatile in that way. They have a lot of pop rock, R&B. They even have like Drowning's kind of country-ish in my opinion. I want to see all that. I want to see a bunch of different subgenres. I know Backstreet Boys is mainly pop, but I'd like to hear versatile. Uh, I basically want to hear a bunch of different song genres on their next album. I feel like there's some albums in the past that really had sort of a specific sound, maybe like a couple of specific sounds. Um, but yeah, I think that'd be really cool. All right, guys, what do you think of my wish list? Maybe maybe we'll end up with a song that matches everything that I said. Maybe not. Um, Hopefully what Nick said is true for this album. But yeah, comment in the section below what do you want to see as far as a wish list. Um, that was mine. Maybe it matches some of yours. Also, by the way, I have a Facebook group if you guys are interested in liking that. Maybe you can start a conversation or something. I try to reply on there. I don't have too many people on there right now. My brother has a Facebook group too. He has more people who are active on there. But if you guys are interested in joining that, go on ahead. And thanks for watching this video. Thanks for liking and commenting and everything like that. Thanks for following me. And I'll catch you guys later.